Today's tutorial, we're going to be looking at a brief introduction to PHP. So to get us started, I have downloaded this PHP intro file from the class website. It was named PHP intro zip. I've dropped it into my project for demo folder and decompressed it. And you'll find that we just have a basic website here. Actually, files that we've been working with kind of on an ongoing basis for a number of different tutorials. Also, there was a file up there named include PHP code that I downloaded and decompressed, and it's sitting on my desktop, and it is just some sample code that we're going to reference as we go through this. If we go into Dreamweaver, wrong program there, sorry, I have opened the index file here, and this file should look familiar. We've definitely been working with this one on a number of occasions now. So pretty basic layout we have here. 2-column layout with a header and a footer. This is actually the navigation sitting up here that we've used a couple different times before. So we're going to use this as the basis for our video today. I also have this code file open over here. We'll reference it in a few minutes. So to get us started, I want to give you an idea of what PHP is and then what we're going to do with our example here today. So PHP is a language that resides out on a web server, and it is one of the languages that is used to create dynamic web pages. So everything we've been doing up to this point have been static web pages, meaning it is just a text file that is residing out on the web server that has HTML code in it. So when you request a web page, so the user or the client is sitting here and they send a request to the web server takes that file and sends it back to them. Okay, pretty basic that way. PHP works a little bit different, and I've made reference to dynamic pages in passing as we've gone. So this is one of the ways it can go, so that the user sits out here, makes a request, it goes to the web server. The web server then uses this PHP interpreter and gathers information it needs. So it might gather it from a file system, which is kind of the way that we went with standard web pages. It may gather other information from a database, or it could pull stuff from a mail server, something like that. So it gathers this information, runs it back through the PHP interpreter here in the middle. The PHP interpreter actually builds an HTML page, which it sends back through the web server to the end user so that they have a page to view. So all of that, it runs and pulls all that information, sends you a completed page back. So that is the theory of PHP. A definition for you for PHP. So the current definition of PHP is PHP Hypertext Preprocessor. So it's kind of an odd definition because PHP is in the definition of the term PHP, so very unusual that way. But you should know that that is the definition of PHP. It used to be, I believe, personal homepage originally, and they reworked the definition to make more sense as the technology changed. So this is the concept of PHP, the overall idea. As we're going to work with it today, we're not actually going to integrate a mail server or a database, but we are going to work with the PHP interpreter, and we're going to work with multiple sources within the file system. So we will have it gather information from a couple files, build an HTML file for us, and send it back to the user. Okay, so that's where we're going. The specifics of what we're doing in today's example is kind of parallel to how we take CSS, and we've been looking at this for quite a while now, where we take our CSS and ideally we put it in an external file, and that is shared amongst web pages so that you have one common set of rules that all the web pages access, and so any change that you make to the rule will affect all of your pages, and so you can update everything through that one file because they're all accessing that central location. In this case, we're going to use PHP, and we're going to pull some HTML code. Let's see, the first one we're going to look at is our navigation, because we like our navigation to be consistent across our pages. We're going to take our navigation and put it in an external file, and then we're going to use PHP to access that code and display it on each page as they are built and then viewed. So that's where we're going with today's process. Okay, So I'm going to switch over to Dreamweaver right now, so we can start to look at our pages here. So you can see my PHP intro folder over here. I have about, contact, index, and products, all HTML pages. I have an images folder, and then I have a style sheet, styles.css. So the first thing that I need to do to get us started is I need to go rename my web pages. They're all ending in .html right now, which is the route we've been going. But for PHP to work, I need to change the name to end in .php instead of .html. And that is so that the server allows it to run or execute the PHP commands in them. So it's necessary. So I'm going to go close my index file, get that out of the way. You can ignore this code file for the moment, not important to us at the moment. And I like to close that one because you can confuse Dreamweaver by renaming files while you have them open. Or worst case, you might come and change the names here with them open. Then you make changes in this file, and when you save it, it still saves it as the HTML file, not the PHP file that you intended it to be. So I'm going to click on each of these names. I'm going to delete the .html on the end, replace it with PHP. And I am doing this in Dreamweaver, and you'll see the reason right now. When I hit enter, it's going to come up and ask me whether it should update my files. And I definitely do want it to update my files. So I'm going to say update. And there, it completed it. So if I go look in this file real quick, just to show you what it updated. Oh, good, I'm in code view. Here's my navigation right now. Note that all of these pages are referenced because they're links. So this word home right here points to index.html. So I just renamed right here, see my about page, I renamed to about.php. So a moment ago, this pointed to about.html. But obviously it needs to point to about.php now. So that's the change that it made within my file. So it's going to rename each of these, or fix each of these links as I rename the files. So let's go ahead and go complete my renaming. I'm going to change contact so it names in ends in .php. Index needs to end in PHP. Making sure I do say update each time. And products needs to end in PHP. Okay, so I've updated all of my files. Now, one of the things we'll discover in a moment is that I'm no longer able to preview my files here locally. So I'm going to upload them to the server when it reaches the point that I need to do the upload. But we'll work that out when we get there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open my index file again. You can again note, if you'd like, that you see all of these now end in PHP. So that worked out well for us. I'm going to go back to split view so I can see both design and code. Okay, so you remember the goal of what we're doing is we're going to move some HTML code out to a central file, a shared file, so that each of our pages can reference the code there. So the first thing I want to do, or the next thing I want to do, is create that shared file. So I'm going to go up to File, and I'm going to say New. I can come down here and pick, where we go, PHP right there. I'll go ahead and change this to XHTML1 transitional if you'd like. It's a good habit to be in. Okay, but the main thing right now is that this says PHP, and we say Create. Now I say it's a good habit to be in because honestly I don't need any of this code that they've put in here. This is all basic HTML code. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. We're not going to be working with that type of code. But I do want to go ahead and go save my file. Ah, good. It did tell me, it did add a .php extension here. And the name we're going to use is include.php. So this is going to have all of my, this is the information I'm going to use when I include them over into my main pages. So I'm going to go find my working folder. I'm working in project 4 demo in a PHP intro folder. Okay, so this is the location. So there are the PHP files we're working in. So name yours include.php, and let's go ahead and save it there. Okay, no content in it for the moment. That's fine. But this is where we're going to put our PHP code and where our HTML, shared HTML code is going to go. Okay, so let's flip back to our slides. Okay, here's our PHP intro piece. I want to start looking at the PHP code itself that we're going to use. So notice on my slides, I've indicated in the corner up here which file I'm talking about. So right now I'm talking about the include.php file that we're just starting to create. I'm going to show you some of the basics we have here. So this is the base code, the base PHP code for our include.php. So first thing I want to show you is the way the code starts to look. So we're accustomed to what our tags look like in HTML and CSS for that matter. In PHP, we start with this bracket, or it's truly a less than sign. So we get the bracket and the question mark. That indicates the beginning of a PHP bit of PHP code. And then at the very end, it ends in a question mark, close bracket, or greater than sign. So this indicates the end of PHP code. So in our include.php file, it's all going to be PHP code. So it'll start with bracket question and end in question bracket. So you know what? I'm going to kind of build the PHP file as we go. So I'm going to flip back to Dreamweaver. Let's do bracket question mark. And I'm just going to hit some returns down here and then do question and close that bracket right there. Okay? So that's just showing that we are working in PHP code here. Okay, back to my slide. So that's how we start. Now, what we're going to accomplish within this, I told you that we're putting HTML code here, but the way we're going to do it is we're actually going to declare a couple of variables. Now, variables are just locations in memory that hold content. So we're going to define two of them. The first one's going to be named navbar. Now, navbar, this name could be anything, but it's descriptive because it's my navigation bar. Okay, so we're going to declare a variable called navbar. We're going to put HTML code within it. So to define it in PHP, you use a $sign and then the name. Then you have to have an equal and a double quote. Then all of our HTML code will go here in the middle in a moment, and that closes with a double quote and a semicolon. So that's how you declare a variable right there. So I guess let's go put one of those in place real quick. So $navbar, $navbar equals quote. Okay, notice it's come up and it's telling me there's a syntax error on line 3, and that's just because I've opened this quote, I've not closed it. So let's hit return a couple times, close my quote, put my semicolon in, and you see that now it says no syntax errors. So it's just kind of checking the code for us as we go, which is helpful, definitely. Okay, so there's our first variable. Our second variable, we're going to go ahead and do 2 in our demo today, and our second one's going to be footer. So $footer equals, and then our quotes and the semicolon. So I can come down here and say $footer space equals space quote, return, 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 quote, semicolon. Okay, get rid of some of these extra spaces here. Okay, so this is the beginning of setting up two variables. I can put one variable in here, a second variable in here. Actually, the contents of the variable in both of those. Okay? So this is the base code for our include.php. So we need to put content in here. Let's go to the next slide. And you can see my HTML code here. So this is my navbar, and you see that I have an unordered list. There's the open and close tag, and then all of the list items. And this should look familiar. These are those pages we were looking at having renamed a few moments ago. Okay, so this is the basic unordered list for our navbar. So I'm going to go back to my page. I can click on the navbar to help me find my place. Let's go to code view here. So there's the navigation bar. Here's the open div tag. There's the close div tag. But I just want the content of my div. You can put anything you want in the variable. I could put the entire div there, but I want to keep my structure here in my HTML file. So I really just want the content. So the open UL through the close UL and all the list items that go within it. That's what I want to put in the variable. So I'm going to go up to edit and I'm going to say copy. Go back to my include.php. Can click in the middle here. I'm going to hit a couple tabs just to bump it in there. And I'm going to say paste. Actually, let's put this in code view as well. I don't need the preview isn't doing anything for me there. Okay, so now I have HTML code. So now we're saying the variable of navbar is holding, it equals everything within these quotes, my unordered list, my navigation. Okay? So while we're moving code around this way, let's jump back over into index, because my other one was footer. I'm going to come down here. Notice that here's my footer div. The content of my footer div is this paragraph. That's all that's in there right now. It could easily have links in it. It could have page links. It could have links to an external site. It could have an email link. It could have all kinds of things in there. Mine currently only has a paragraph. And so the paragraph is what I want to take, just the content. So I'm going to go grab all of that paragraph, copy it, back to my include. Again, I'm going to go into the middle here and paste. So now I'm saying the variable footer is holding, it equals everything within the quotes, and everything is this paragraph. So that's what's going to go there. Okay? So, let's see, our next step, you may have noticed that we now have a syntax error on line 6. It's flagging us for an error up here. Line 6 is this line right here. And let's look at what our error is. I don't know if it stood out to you yet what we're doing, but remember what this says. It says the variable of navbar equals everything within the quotes. So it opens the quotes and it runs down until it hits another double quote. Okay, well there's our problem right there. So it's saying that this is the content of navbar. Really all of this should be the content of navbar. Now at this point it's kind of confused because there's a double quote here. Here's the semicolon, which indicates the end of our establishing this variable. So we have a problem in our code right now. So the double quotes that HTML uses are causing a problem within PHP. So what we need to do is we need to go make a change to our code. The easiest way to change the code is to take all of these double quotes that are within our HTML and let's change them to single quotes. Actually an apostrophe, but for clarity I'm calling them single quotes. So the easiest way to do this in Dreamweaver is to highlight the section of the file that we want to change. So all of my HTML code right here. And we're going to use the find command in Dreamweaver, which I don't think we've used yet. It's very powerful though. So I'm going to do a command F. Okay, so it brings up this dialog box for me. Now the find command I can find in my current document, all open documents, a whole folder, all selected files in a site, the entire current local site. That's pretty powerful right there. In this case though, I want to go to the very top one, just the selected text. So that is what I have selected here right now. So I want to do a find and replace within this text. What I want to do is I want to find a double quote. So I typed a double quote. It's hard to see it, but that is a double. And I want to replace it with a single quote. Okay, so put a double quote under find, a single quote under replace. And let's come over here and click on the replace all. And you notice what it's done here. It's changed all of my double quotes to single quotes just within my HTML code right here. Also notice up here I no longer have any syntax errors. So fix that for me. Now if you had links down here, you'd run into the same problem. I currently don't have any, so I don't have a problem or an error in my code. But depending on your file, you might have to go fix it there as well. Okay, so this is everything we need in the include.php file. I'm going to go up and do a quick save. Okay, so we're actually done with that file for now. Okay, I'll go back to my web page here, and actually I'm going to flip back to my slides. So let's see, this was putting our content in, That was putting our content in. The next couple slides have to do with changing out our quotes. There was another version, another way of fixing that isn't working as well, so we're going to skip that. So we just changed our double quotes to single quotes in here. Okay, so the next step of what we need to do with our PHP. Notice that now we're working with index.php up here. So we're working in our actual web page. So the next thing we need to do is we need to tell the browser to access include.php. That file we just created, we need to, when your HTML page or when your web page starts to load within the browser, you need to tell it about include.php so it goes and loads those two variables. The way we do it is by adding this line right here, this include, quote, include.php. This line of code goes as the first line of code within our web page. Okay, so again, it's PHP, so it's a bracket question, ends in the question bracket, and in it you get include, and then within double quotes, include.php. So I'm going to flip back over here, go to the very top line. So it's bracket question, then it's include space double quote include.php, close that double quote, space question bracket. Okay, so you notice it was flagging errors as we went, but once I closed everything, so once I closed the double quote, once I closed the brackets here, it cleared all of the errors. So include.php. We can double check ourselves. Include.php, all within those. Okay? So the first thing the browser does as it starts to load is it says, oh, we have to go include.php. It comes to this file. It says, oh, more PHP. We've defined a variable called navbar. Put this within it. Define a variable called footer. Put this within it. And then it goes back to our page and starts running through our page code. So we're starting to get close. The only step we have left right now is actually taking this HTML code out. So this is the code we put in the variable. So we no longer want this code within our file. We instead want to instruct the browser to go get the code from our include.php file. So let's flip back to our slides. Okay, so we go into our include.php file. We're going to go look for this code right here, the open UL through the close UL. This is what we defined navbar to hold. So I want to remove this code and replace it with this command right here, which you notice is PHP. And it uses a PHP command of echo. And so it says echo $navbar. So that means go get the contents of the navbar variable and echo it or display it on the screen. Okay? So echo $navbar. So I find my open UL through my close UL. I'm going to highlight it so that I'm just replacing it. I do bracket question, so I'm in PHP. The command is echo. And then the variable is $navbar. Give it the semicolon, space, question, bracket. Okay, you see that it cleared all my syntax errors as I finished. So it's PHP, we see the brackets, and it's echo $navbar with the semicolon. We can flip back and double check. Echo $navbar. There's the semicolon. Okay, we've done well there. So a little more code in this exercise than we tend to do. Okay, the last step we need to do here, again in my index.php file, I need to add the code that displays the contents of the footer variable. So I need to go find this paragraph that's within my footer, and I need to replace it with an echo command as well. So this time we're going to echo $footer. Okay, so if I run down, here's my footer down here. I'm going to highlight the paragraph. That is what's in my footer variable. So bracket question mark to make it PHP. echo dollar footer semicolon question bracket, and that should clear the errors. It does. Okay, so that's all PHP. And so this says once it reaches this point, go get the contents of the variable footer and echo it or display it here within this page. So now we've made all the changes we need to within our page. Flip back to design view. I do want to point out that what it does here is you can no longer see, I cannot see what the HTML is doing. It just puts this little PHP button here. Okay, so it that code's no longer there, so it's not displaying it. Let's move this out of the way. There we go. Now you can see the bottom of our page again. There's the other PHP code I have going on down here. Let's review one more time what this is doing. So this is your web page. As it starts to load in the browser, it first comes across this command right here. Now, it's PHP. It can execute it because the file has a .php extension. It says include .php. So I go find the file called include.php, which is here. Oh, more PHP. I define a variable called navbar, and I put the contents of the quotes within it. So this HTML resides within this variable. So it just stores it in that memory location. Then I define another variable called footer. Everything within the quotes goes there. So this piece of HTML, this paragraph, is now stored in the memory location called footer. And then that's the end of my PHP. So it's done running this file. So it comes back here. So now I have the HTML in those two memory locations. Starts running through my file. We get to the end of the head. We start into the body. Start to build my page. There's the container. There's the header div, my sidebar, content. There's my top nav. Then once it starts to put my ID together here, or my div, and then hits another another line of PHP. At this point it says, echo or display the contents of navbar. So that's that HTML. So it displays that here. We keep running on down through our page. When we reach our footer, it gets to one last line of PHP, and it tells it to echo or display the contents of the variable footer. Okay, so that's what we have going on here. So I'm going to go up and do a quick save all. We're almost done here. Actually, this page is done, but I need to go fix my other three pages. So I'm going to go open About and Contact and Products. And I'm just going to step through these together. So I'm going to grab this include line that's at the top. Oops. I'm going to do a Command C and copy it. Go to About, go to the very top and paste it at the top. So now it's part of that file. Go to Contact, paste it at the top. Go to Products and paste it at the top. So I'm just going to step through each file with each change I need. Back to my index. I know that right here in my top nav I have this echo command which replaces my UL. So I'm going to Command C, copy that one. Then in each of these I'm going to go find that UL. There's the UL within top nav. Highlighting that, I'm going to paste and replace it. So this now looks the same. There's my top nav div with the echo within it. Again to Contact. Highlight the full UL and paste. So there my top nav div looks the same again. One last time within Products. Highlight the full UL and paste. So again, top nav looks the same. Okay, one last pass. I come back to index. I scroll towards the bottom. Here's my footer div, and I need that echo in there to replace the paragraph. So I'm going to highlight that and copy. Then in About, I go find my paragraph and paste. Go to Contact. Same thing. I grab the paragraph within my footer and paste. And the last one, I go to Products. I go down to the footer. highlight that paragraph, and paste. So again, there's my footer div with only the echo in it. Okay, so these all look consistent. They're all doing the same thing. Wonderful. So I'm going to go up and say Save All. Now the only way that I can test this, if you were to go click on the Live button here, it's going to give you an error and say that it doesn't have a testing server to check this on. So it's unable to check these pages here locally on my computer. I don't have that PHP interpreter set up right now to do that. So I am going to come over here to my Files panel. I'm going to click on my PHP intro folder. I'm going to upload the whole folder. Apparently I already typed my password in, so that's good. It's uploading all those files for me. Being fairly quick. And in a moment, once it's all up there, I'm going to go to my web server and check and make sure they're all working. It's like we're almost there. Oh, those are my images. Okay. So I'm going to go to my browser. Now, this is my web server for CDES222. If you're in the MSP5 class, then your address looks a little bit different. Okay, I was working in the project for demo folder. There's my PHP intro folder, so I click on that. And it looks like everything worked. I can tell it worked because it's actually displaying my navigation at the top and it's displaying the paragraph at the bottom. Remember when I look at the code, excuse me, not the code, but when I look at it in Dreamweaver, it just shows the PHP right here and the PHP here. So I should actually see the pieces in place, this paragraph in my navigation. As I flip through my pages, I should be able to see that on all of my pages. That's good, it's working on all of them. One thing I do want to point out to you here, let's view page source. I was being a little slow, being quite slow. Okay, what I want to show you is right here. There's my top nav div, and notice that in it is the full UL. So it does not show you the PHP there. If you look at the very top line of the code, there's my doc type. So that line of PHP we put is no longer there. And again, here's my footer div, and the PHP is gone. It's replaced with the paragraph. So I'm not sure if that's what you were expecting to see here, but let's go think about the process, because you request the page, runs to the web server through the interpreter. In this case, it's gathering a couple different files. It runs back to the interpreter. The interpreter uses that PHP code and builds us an HTML page. So the PHP is no longer there. Then back through the server to us. So the PHP code is not there. We end up with only HTML code displayed to us. So that's how that is actually working out. So I can tell that my file name is index.php right here, so I know that there's some kind of execution going on there with PHP, but I can't see it in the source of my page once I get there. Now let's look at one last thing here. Let's go back to Dreamweaver. So now we know that the theory of what we're doing, I'm going to close these pages out, is we have centralized? We have put this HTML in one central location. So the advantage we have now is if I have another link that I need in my navigation, I could come edit this page, and I could do a new li and an a href equals, oops, that's not an equal, and I don't know, let's say sitemap.php and so forth. So I could add another link in here, and that would update all of my pages. Or an even easier change, since I don't have another page, is I can come down here and you notice that my copyright says 2013 on all of my pages. I'm going to change that to 14. I'm going to save this file, and I'll go upload this updated file right here. And let's, before I do that, notice that it says 13 on all of my pages. So back to Dreamweaver, I'm going to upload that file. Now if I come refresh my page, it now says 14 on my page. As I flip through my pages, they all say 14 on them now. So I have that bit of HTML in one central location. Granted, I only have 4 pages in this demo, but I only had to change it one and updates all of my pages. If I had a 50-page website, then I've saved myself a lot of work that way. Now I've realized the one thing I've not shown you is this code file that I gave you. We didn't end up using it, but I will show you that what we have is the sample code that we use. So this would be the contents of our include.php that we use in this demo. So we walked through looking at the slides on it. This is the piece of code right here that we use at the top of each web page, the include command. And here are our 2 echo commands that are used further down within the web page. So this is just a sample of all of the PHP code we use. If you want to look at it in a code editor, in this case I have it open within Dreamweaver. Okay, so this has been just an introduction to basics of PHP. This is a rather simple introduction on it, but it is kind of a real-world example of how you can use PHP to get a piece of HTML code in a central location and do the updates, and how you make the calls from each of your pages.